Welcome everyone to another episode of Vinny Makes the Hall of Fame Case for. And we are going to the kind of Western New York for this one, although the origin story is far, far greater. Vinny Lospinuso, how you doing, brother?
Doing good. And yeah, this one is a big one for me. This is one where, like, for many years, I'm like, this guy has the career. Like, forget football, the career, period.
Well, okay, the career, but we're talking specifically for the Pro Football Hall of Fame on this one.
Oh, yeah. But still, like, this this name just felt obvious to me for a whole bunch of reasons.
Really? Okay, because I have one big asterisk on this one, but we'll get there later. We're talking obviously about quarterback Jack Kemp,
Hmm.
who is, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe he held, it can't be broken, the all passing yard record in the AFL.
Yeah, he is the
Passing
all-time leader
yards,
in passing yards. He
not
is
touchdown passes though, right?
passing yards.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Passing yards. I think he is one of the most important and integral people in the history of the AFL.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, very much so.
It's fine.
I think very highly of him in that regard. And they would tell you how significant he was. He was there for every single year of the AFL, from
Mhm.
its start to its finish. He was there.
Okay. So I guess when you look at Kemp's career, so he plays at Occidental, Division III college that I had to look up because I never even heard of Occidental. So
Yeah.
it's in California, but still plays well enough, good enough to get drafted by the Lions. Never plays for them, does play a handful of games for the Steelers, and he's on the taxi squad for the Giants and who else?
The Niners. And he also played for the Calgary Stampeders in 59.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so he played one game there, got cut there too,
Hmm.
and but to be fair, the Canadian Football League, in comparison, like in the 50s, it was not completely out of the realm for people to sort of like leave the NFL to go play in the CFL if they thought they got a better deal.
Hmm.
That could happen back then. Wouldn't happen
Yeah.
now, obviously, but the AFL opens up all these brand new opportunities, and
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Jack Kemp is someone who I look at when I think of the AFL.
Mhm.
You haven't seen Lamar Hunt. You think of the Chiefs' dominance. But don't forget, people always talk about, Lamar, Lamar Hunt, and they talk about, but don't forget, Ralph Wilson was very much a part of that, and he was with the Bills from their founding to the end of his life. And I think a big reason why the Bills are what they are is because of people like Jack Kemp. Because when he was with the AFL, he decided to sign as a free agent with the Chargers, and it was a huge, huge it was a huge part of him. And he's like, wow, who's this guy? This guy's really good. And he was in the first team all AFL. And that was the case the following year, too. He led the team to the Western Division title, and they made it to the AFL Championship game, which is fantastic. I mean, back to back years for the team, and he leads into a champion back to back years.
What I can't
But
figure.
then,
Oh, go ahead. You're probably going to say
but
this.
then that year, 1962, in the second game of the season, he broke one of his fingers, and he tried to hide it and put it on waivers. So Lou Saban, the coach the Bills said, "Hey, he's available. I'll pay $100 for it." And that is honestly one of the biggest finesses, one of the biggest bargains, one of the biggest steals in
Hey,
football history.
this is yeah, and I know the story, but what I don't understand, and maybe you know more than I do here, when they tried to hide him on waivers, like what were they trying to do? Were they just trying to get another person on the roster?
Well, because the Bills had quarterback issues. They
No, no,
weren't
no,
that
no, no,
good.
no. The Chargers. The Chargers
Oh,
put him on waivers. The Chargers because they weren't looking to get rid of Kemp.
no, they weren't. Like again, he's the guy that took him to the championship game in back-to-back seasons.
But what was their okay? Their mentality is that okay, we're going to put him on waivers so that what they could
They
get rid of
wanted
the
they wanted to
roster
hide him.
spot?
They wanted to hide him just in case, like, hey, then it happens.
Yeah, but why it was during the season? So are you
Yeah,
trying to clear up a roster spot? Is what I'm asking. That's the only
he
thing I can
like
think
Kemp
of.
wants. Yeah,
Okay.
he wanted to make sure that just put it around a football so that way it doesn't heal, so that way it heals. And
Because I guess there was no IR back then.
no, there were it wasn't something they really wanted to speak of. Remember, you think about all the guys were so tough back then. It's not that they were very, very tough. It's that they didn't really disclose these injuries. Now you have to disclose these injuries
Okay,
for,
yeah,
for, for
because I was trying to wrap my head around how that's even possible. Because I also read that Buffalo wasn't the only one who made the claim for it, but
no, in fact,
yeah, the two other
Kemp.
teams did.
No, I know for a fact Kemp did not want to. Kemp did not want to play for the Bills. He did
Oh
not. He
well,
was
yeah, no shock there when you're well, talking about a guy from California and you're playing in warm weather. A lot of people who grow up in warm weather, and the
the
last show we did
Broncos.
was about Richmond Webb, who was from Texas, and he told me when I got to interview him, like he was just so happy that Miami drafted him because he didn't want to go to a cold weather team.
No, he didn't.
Yeah, and I'm sure that part had to play a part of it. Had to.
Yeah, and no, then but Kemp became a huge battle at QB with him and Daryl LaMonica. Kemp won out. Arguably, you could say one of the best 1-2 like starter and backup combos in you know NFL
AFL
history.
history.
Oh, it's definitely in history, no question.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You
And
could do a
for the Bills.
thing on just LaMonica later on,
Oh,
but
it will. It'll happen at some point, but I want to do
I
Kemp
know it
first.
will. I know it will. But yeah,
Uh,
Kemp did something that no other quarterback did in Buffalo and nobody else since. He
Forget
brought
just
them a
winning.
title.
Well, not just that. He was the MVP in
Hmm?
1965,
Okay.
and he led him to not one but two back-to-back AFL Championship wins, and was the MVP for
Mhm.
both of those. I know people talk about Plunkett a lot. Eli is going to make it in quickly,
Mhm.
but don't forget Jack Kemp. Jack Kemp had that too. Jack Kemp is the only guy that could say he led the Bills to not one but two championship victories.
So he's got the passing yards. He's also a decent rusher. I think he had how
He
many
was
rushing
he was
touchdowns? 40,
he
45?
was way ahead of his time when it came to a quarterback with rushing
Yeah,
touchdowns. I think he held the record for a while until Steve Young broke it. Like
I think you're
I think
right.
he's
Yeah.
like top five. Like
But there's one massive thing against him.
yes, those interceptions are high.
They're very high. His TD to INT is what is it?
It
Uh,
is high.
Let me just bring that up here because I
It's
think
very high. It's
they say
114
that.
to 183.
Thank you. Yeah. So I would imagine that if you are a voter now, and because he is part of he's a preliminary candidate in the senior pool, and if you didn't see him play, and you obviously a lot of the people who were part of that voting pool haven't,
Yeah,
when that is an eyesore.
it is.
Yeah. So
But I don't
what
care.
would be your? No, I know you don't care, and it's a gunslinging time in the AFL.
Yes.
So we have to put that in a certain perspective. Saying that, that is, I think, the biggest hurdle he's got to overcome.
Oh yeah, I'm not holding my breath for him. I'm aware
No,
of
no,
that.
I know, but I mean, like, what would be your counter to someone? Because that would be like if I were to just sort of like be someone to just say like one stat, and let's the elevator pitch, TDINT ratio, done.
Okay, I could tell you even more things. I could tell you that he was also someone that did something that the Bills have not done since. I also know for a fact that the reason why he's not talked about as much is because those Bills teams that he was a part of, those are the last two teams that won AFL championships that did not go to the Super Bowl. That were not the Super Bowl didn't happen afterwards. So he has that could affect him. And you also see that for Kemp, there's way more to him than just that. You talk MVP. People talk about Plunkett and Eli a lot. He won an MVP. That's something those two guys can't say. He also has more Pro Bowls than Eli or Plunkett. Plunkett doesn't have any of them. He also, when it comes
I just said that's true.
to Kemp, is than any of the quarterbacks that are in the senior pool or other NFL players. He literally founded the AFL Players Association. The AFL Players Association, mind you, was stronger than the NFL Players Association at that time, and he led it. He's a big reason why he was seen more as a players' league compared to the NFL. And
I
we
think
we
I
talk.
think oh, sorry, go ahead. There's something I want to mention after, but go ahead.
I mean, if people want to talk about, I agree completely with Billy Howden and whatnot. Well, let's not forget Jack Kemp. Like the AFL Players Union was no joke. They were really, really good, and Kemp is a big reason why that happened. And if it wasn't for this, he would not be a very successful politician, someone that was a congressman for 20 years. And let's not forget, he was Bob Dole's running mate in 1996. Like, I can't leave out a guy like that who did all this. Like, one of the most important politicians of the 20th century. I can't ignore that.
But politics have nothing to do with the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
In a way, it kind of does
No, it
because
shouldn't.
it absolutely does. Maybe not. It may not be explicitly mentioned, but I mean, a big reason why Kemp became so significant as a politician is because he was so successful as a quarterback. And yes, people are going to mention the touchdown interception. I'm very aware of it. I'm very, very, very aware of that. But we're also in an era where people want to see more quarterbacks run the ball. He did that better than anyone back in the day.
No. I know what you're saying, and like when you look at the grand career of Jack Kemp, I mean it's very impressive. But being a easy for me to say, successful
Successful.
politician should not have a whole lot of impact or any impact on your Pro Football Hall of Fame thing. What I do think, though, is an event that he did while he was a player in '65 at the AFL All Star game.
Hmm.
And I think you know where I'm going with that.
Of course.
So his teammate, Cookie Gilchrist,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, an amazing running back who
Should also be in the Hall
also
of
maybe
Fame.
that might be someone you might make a case for at another time.
Yeah.
Because he had a very short career, but a very impactful one. One of those players whose impact was greater than what he did in the gridiron, and it was still a pretty damn good player, like a player. But
Oh, yeah.
Cookie led the because the All Star game was in New Orleans,
Hmm.
and I might have some of the facts wrong. I'm sure you don't, which is why I'm sort of leaning towards you on this one. But I believe that there was an issue in terms of segregation at the hotels or something to that effect.
Oh,
And
yeah.
and so Cookie led all the black players, and Jack Kemp said, "Okay, well, I'm standing with my teammate," and he rallied all the white players to do the same. Do I have this right?
Yes. Like the reason why I'm saying that stuff's important is because Kemp is on record for saying his time as a player is a big reason why
No, I know that, but I mean, like what he
I
did
became such a
there.
success. I agree with him completely.
But what he did
But
there in '65 is relevant to, I think, to his Pro Football Hall of Fame case. What he
yeah.
does as a politician afterwards holds no bearing to me.
Oh, I'm saying in terms of like it.
No, Jack
Well,
Kemp's the man.
Jack Kemp, the man, Jack Kemp, the Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient too. Got to say that also.
Yeah.
Um, got that before? Now, granted, obviously, he got it more for his political achievements. I'm not disputing that at all. But this was someone who was very ahead of his time in many ways.
Mhm.
For embracing integration, in a league that was much more in favor of integration and much more pro player than the NFL's. Now, yes, I'm aware that the interceptions are going to hurt. I'm aware of that. And
No,
it's
it's bad.
I'm not disputing that, but I know that the same people are going to mention what about his accolades,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. No, I
that
get
that's
I get it. And that's why I sort of like you already knew what hurdle I was going to throw at you.
I'm aware of that. That's the thing that I've mentioned Jack Kemp to some people, and not going to say who, but some have kind of made fun of me for saying it. And guess I don't care what his interception total is because a lot of those same people are the same ones that are mentioned accolades and all pros and MVPs. Well, guess what? This guy has all the ones that
Oh,
you want.
and that's a fair thing too. You know, it absolutely is. Sort we'll see where he goes with the senior group. It'll
I'm
be.
not holding my breath.
Neither am I.
I mean,
Neither am
the
I.
Bills have not done anything for him too. Like his number should have been retired ages ago.
I was going to say
And
because he's on their wall of honor, but yeah.
yeah, but listen, the guy should have had his number retired a long time ago. I know why
Buffalo,
OJ Simpson doesn't, but like
but Buffalo's an interesting thing too, right? Because I wonder, and I've gone to many a Bills game, and just like living in Southern Ontario, so I'd like to think I'm sort of in tap with the Bills culture somewhat. They don't seem to be sort of like reveling in their two AFL championships at all.
they don't care at all. They think the Bills were founded in ninth. They think that the
I
only thing
don't
that
think
ever
that,
existed before
but
the
they're not embracing what they did in the AFL. Well, I think the Raiders did, the Chargers. You know what I
the
mean?
Raiders did that. They embraced that. The
Yeah.
Bills, I think a lot of it is because of the media at the time, and because and people talk about how great the Chiefs were. The Bills were the second best team of the entire AFL.
No,
Like
no,
the
no.
Bills,
You're right. You're right.
the Bills were really good. They don't mention it because the Raiders made that a big part of their identity. The Chargers did also. The Chiefs said the Bills never really did. And because they're in upstate New York, because a lot of the attention went to the Steelers over there, and a lot of the attention
Well, it's a small market city. That
went
doesn't.
to the Jets, and because the Bills were they were the last team to win an AFL championship before the Super Bowl era. So they got a lot of really tough breaks. And unfortunately, because Vic Carucci and the people in Buffalo have not been promoting it, the Pagulas don't see it as economically viable. It's why Jack Kemp doesn't have enough attention. And I'd love to speak to Kemp's family. I'm sure they're not really thrilled by that either, but I'm sure they're much more proud of his political accomplishments. And you should be, and everyone should be. But I'll say this: Jim Kelly may be more beloved, but guess what? Jack Kemp's a higher Hall of Fame monitor than Jim Kelly ever did.
Okay. All right. Not
How do you
sure
will?
about that one, but I did. I
No, he
did love
does.
the
I can look at it
conversation.
right now. His Hall of
Okay.
Fame monitor
Well.
right now,
Okay.
he's higher than Jim Kelly's.
All right. I'll take your word for it.
Mhm.
With
Yeah.
that said, after this, after you've listened to this, here's what we're going to ask you to do. You're going to go to www.theusahof.com and you're going to vote on the United States Athletics Hall of Fame, where you're going to say, hey, who do we think is the greatest American athlete that ever existed? And put them in a Hall of Fame that exists for the people, by the people. And you can do this the second year. Coaches, contributors, players. Vinny's one of the people who helped decide who is the breadth of people that you're voting on.
Mm-hmm.
As am I. But at the end of the day, we're not saying who gets in. You all are. Hey, democracy, it works. Look at that.
Does indeed. Please
Uh-huh.
be a part of it
Oh,
because it's precious. Democracy is precious. Don't forget that.
so the Germans would have us believe. With that said, wherever you are, wherever you may be, make today count because it never comes again. Tally ho.